Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to be sitting down with Brian Swift from Project Appleseed out here in Maryland, and it's going to be a really good show. So with that, let's not waste any time. Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve on a glorious Thursday afternoon.
Outstanding. Good.
I wish it wasn't so humid.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me down, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I don't have a problem, man. I enjoy this kind of stuff. I enjoy finding people that have the same passion for responsible firearms ownership and stewardship and training, and really just kind of shrinking down the world and making it a tighter knit community, right? Because that's what it is. You know, if we go back in time, right, it was all about community, and it was community first oftentimes, right? And then the old saying, right, it takes a village to raise a child. All those things, when people talked about them back in the day, they meant something, right? And as we have, and I always like to say it like this, and for eons, okay, the caveman has done everything he can to perfect his cave, right?
Sure.
We have the greatest caves in the history of the planet, and now we don't even ever have to leave our cave, right? We can get food delivered to our cave, our groceries, our clothes. We can do school from home now, work from home, all this other stuff we can do from home. And the people that are giving you that are actually, you know, they're making money off of the humans want to stay at home, right? And it's just this dynamic and what we're losing out on, and I rambled there a bit, so apologize for that. But what we're losing out on is the community.
Absolutely.
Right? Everybody's at home now. And we really saw a sting, I guess, over the past 18 months, right? And it's no secret that, you know, society was locked down for the past year and a half. And we've opened back up, and I'm hopefully it doesn't happen again, and God willing it doesn't, right? Hopefully that part of our history is behind us. But community means something, and it is so important to a lot of people, and I feel that it's part of our genetic making that we need people in our lives. Right? There's a reason why solitary confinement exists. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt about it.
Separating a human from the community is terrible. Right. That's one of the reasons, Brian, why I really wanted to bring you on the show, man, is because you're not in it for yourself. Project Appleseed, from what I understand, which isn't much, and I hope to get that out of you in a minute, is about teaching. It's about forming a community. It's about bringing people out and together, right? So can you tell us a little bit, you know, and actually tell us a lot, tell us as much as you think we need to know, all right, about Project Appleseed.
All right. Well, Project Appleseed, has been around for 12 to 15 years, thereabouts, depending on what iteration you want to, come at it from. And it was started by this guy. He goes by the moniker of Fred. He's down in Ramseur, North Carolina, kind of out in the boonies there. And, Fred, back in that time frame, he had a business called Fred's M14 Stocks, and he used to advertise in the Shotgun News, if anybody remembers that publication.
Okay. Could I get you to come up on the mic a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, if you want to just kind of pull it out toward you, that's another thing. Grab it right here by the nest.
Yep.
And you can just yank that thing right out there toward you. You can tweak it around and all that stuff. I promise it's not going to break.
Absolutely.
All right. So Fred owned what was the name of it out there?
Called Fred's M14 Stocks.
All right. Fred's M14 Stocks.
So Fred apparently bought a whole boatload of M14 military surplus stuff, and so he was hawking his gear on Shotgun News, and so he'd take out a page and a half or 2 pages for each volume of the Shotgun News, which came out 3 times a month. And he would devote about a third of his advertising space to this idea of, are you a rifleman? And the idea behind it was originally that, hey, you're either a rifleman or you're a cook. You're either on the line doing the things, or you're back in the rear with the gear. And
very militaristic philosophy.
Exactly. So that's kind of how it started out. And now the thing that I like to tell people is, and I'm not, I don't have access to Fred's checkbook, but I can tell you that the rumored number was that he was spending like $15,000 a month on, and this was for like 10 plus years, on advertising, and his ad shifted from an ad for his business to basically advertising for Project Appleseed. And so he had this great idea, and he looked around and he said, he doesn't like the way the country's going, and what can he do about it? So he came up with this idea that, okay, well, people have forgotten the sacrifices that our forefathers made to literally earn our freedom with their blood. And they literally risked everything to give us what we have. So that's part one of Appleseed is, we want you to come out and during the course of a class, we're going to teach you, basically 3.5 history lessons on one day of the American Revolution, which was the day of Battle Road, the day that it all started. And the second half of that is rifle marksmanship. We're going to teach you 3-position rifle shooting. Our course of fire is from the 1930s U.S. Army. And these guys were doing it with bolt guns back then in 30-06. We're doing it today with rimfire, so everybody should be able to do this. Yeah. And it's just the basics. It's hammering the basics. And it's for beginners. It's for advanced people. It's for and everybody in between. So it's at the end of it, you get the history, you get the rifle marksmanship, and it's a means to hopefully have you get off the couch at the end of everything. You're going to, when you leave, you're going to get a message about civic involvement, about being involved with your community. We are purposely not political. We don't talk about any politics newer than 1775. We're a friend to all and an enemy to none. We're not asking anything about your politics or anything like that. If you're an American, we want you on the line. We want you to hear this story. We want you to appreciate the price that was paid to earn your freedom, and in the hopes that when you roll out of there, you're going to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on and maybe guard it a little bit more jealously.
Sure.
In addition to the shooting. I mean, the shooting's awesome. We all love doing that, but it's really a hook to get you in to hear the story. So.
No, I get it. So that does talk a lot about the community, right? And because there's a constitutional duty or a civic duty to uphold the Constitution, right? And honor the sacrifices. And I know you didn't go past 1775 there, right? But to honor the sacrifices that any American soldier has made, right, to defend this country and its Constitution.
Absolutely.
So there's certainly something there that speaks to that community, and I applaud you guys for stepping out and doing that stuff. So this all started about 10 to 15 years ago, right?
Correct.
When did Project Appleseed Maryland start?
Well, we about 12 years ago, maybe 13. I'm getting old, so they all kind of blend together.
Okay.
I started reading the Shotgun News stuff, and they started having these Appleseed classes, and I was like, hey, man, I'd really like to check that out and do it and see what it's all about. And there was nothing in Maryland. So my first class, I had to go to North Carolina, and then I had to go to Tennessee for my next class. And then I went to North Carolina again to another part of the state. And I said, the hell with this. I'm going to do it. So let's get it going in Maryland. And I said, hey, I want to do this. I want to get it going in the state. And we had a couple of just amazing instructors down in Virginia who volunteered to come up and kind of get us going. Nice. And ever since then, it's been all downhill. We've been going nonstop for 11, 12 years, and the lines are full, and we want to keep it that way. So life is good.
Yeah, and that's another reason I want to get you on the show, because, I mean, it's if people like you if you don't have a platform, well, it seems as if you've done well enough, right? Your lines are full, as you said, right? But let's do everything we can to keep them that way, because marksmanship is, and not only that, but just riflemanship, you know what I'm saying? And then the civic duty and all of that stuff they're fundamental. And, I remember, so I'm 39. When I was in elementary school, there was still like this acceptable presence of firearms kind of around the school, right? People still had them in there on the rifle rack, pulling up to school and stuff. And everybody knew the dangers and the benefits of owning a firearm, right? It was just understood. And I'm 39, I'll be, 40 next year. And now it's like the kids, they're not even really taught anything about that. And what you guys are doing is not only, teaching, because you work with underage kids as well, right?
Oh yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So you're working with kids, you're teaching them firearm safety, you're teaching them the history, the responsibility of being a good marksman, good gun owner and a marksman, and teaching them their history, which those are both two things that are being denigrated in the education system of late. In fact, and again, not trying to get political here, in Oregon, I just saw they're removing standardized testing for math, English, and spelling in high school.
Yeah,
I just saw that. I'm like, what the crap? And it's just this dumbing down of society, but that's neither here nor there. What you guys are doing is really cool. And I caught something. If old Fred from M14 butt stocks was spending $10,000 a month in ads, he must have been selling a hell of a lot of butt stocks.
Well, maybe he's got his hand in a lot of different things, or at least he did in the various parts of his life. But this guy's fully committed, and
Nice.
he put his money where his mouth is, and he created this out of thin air. We've had 140,000 people through the program since its inception.
Okay.
And everybody's a volunteer. We've got, depending on what year you're talking about, we've had upwards of 1,000 people who have taken the class and said, "Hey, look, this is awesome. I want to do this," and they step up and they come out and work 1-2 weekends a month, or and spread the word. And it's an I was at an NRA convention, and I was with Fred for most of the trip, kind of as, I don't want to say, basically I was hanging out with him, and he tends to look at it of, man, we haven't made it far enough. We need to grow this program more. It's constant forward improvement. And I turned around and I looked at him. I said, "Fred, do you ever stop and just stop and pause and take a look at where you're at and what you've created?" I mean, it's mind-boggling. I couldn't even in my wildest dreams think I'd had this great idea in the shooting world and say, well, hell, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then do it and have it take off to this scale. So he's definitely touched on the themes that not only are important, but are resonating with a lot of other people got to feel the way he does or did.
That's good.
Or this wouldn't have happened. So it's an undertone. It's there. I don't know whether people talk about it much, but it's there.
So the concept of Project Appleseed, right? I'm assuming that comes from Johnny Appleseed. Is that right? The guy who ran around throwing apple seeds around. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of the same idea. We're spreading the seeds of freedom, the seeds of marksmanship. We're trying to re-inspire people to rediscover their American heritage and their rights and frankly to learn the skills of a rifleman. I mean, and what we mean specifically by that is to be able to pick up a rack grade rifle with standard issue ammo and be able to hit your target out to a quarter mile away at the drop of a dime. And that used to be a skill that was taught. It used to be a skill that was common. And these days it's rare as hen's teeth. And we're trying to fix that.
How are you guys doing that? Like what's the process? So I was, you don't know much about me, but I'm an Army veteran.
Gotcha.
I spent a lot of time on the range, and now even today, I spend quite a bit of time on the range. And everybody has their own kind of philosophy. Is there a standard practice among Appleseed instructors for how to teach a firearm, how to teach a rifleman how to hit a quarter-mile shot?
Oh, yeah. Everything down to the exact verbiage of how we teach is carefully vetted, gone over, proven, and approved. If you take take a class in Maryland as an Appleseed, and then you go to Texas and take one, you're going to hear the same thing the same way every time, all the time, and it works. You mentioned you're a military veteran. One of the I mean, I got a lot to cover here, but one of the Army just redid their marksmanship training. They reviewed it and redid it about, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago. And the guy who actually did it and got it approved is an Appleseed guy.
Oh, really? That's nice. That's a big win.
Which
for
is
Project
kind of cool,
Appleseed,
yeah,
right?
man. So it's like all that stuff we've been doing and teaching, because the Army got away from that for a while, at least the way we do it. and now they've kind of come full circle. And I mean, back in the day when there were a lot of units going over to the sandbox to do stuff, we'd have units contact us and say, "Hey, we're heading over. We can't get range time, or we want to do this just as extra practice or whatever." And we do classes specifically for them. You know, we'll go to them, they'll come to us. You know, whatever it takes. But you know, the fact that we're doing that tells me it works too. So you know, it's all good stuff.
So, do you guys work with? I'm going to get more into the Project Appleseed and actually the philosophy, and you've got a lot of really cool stuff there in front of you that the camera can't pick up just yet, but we'll get it out there.
Right.
Do you guys work with local ranges? Do you guys have partnerships? I mean, if this is a nonprofit and all the instructors are volunteers, money's got to come from somewhere. And I looked at the prices to come out to your training. They're not expensive by any means, but it's definitely not enough to support, you know, ammunition costs or range fees or anything else like that. Are you guys getting help, at least in Maryland, from local ranges?
We are. That was the hardest thing about getting this thing going was walking in cold to, and I've been to just about every range in the state, you know, in my mind, and saying, "Hey, I got this great thing. It's called Project Appleseed. We're not a militia. We're just, hey, we're teaching people how to shoot rifles and be safe shooters and their American heritage." And a lot of the ranges I went to were like, "Yeah, what's in it for me? You know, I want $70 a shooter, and you're going to fill the line, or you can't have your shoots here."
Yeah.
I had to go through a lot of that, and I kind of settled in on about 4 or 5 ranges in Maryland who basically donate the time to us and say, "Here you go, you know, have at it." And I've got a regular schedule with these particular ranges, and we're there year after year on the same number of shoots each year. And so long as range leadership kind of maintains that view and doesn't want to rock the boat, we're doing okay. We'd always love to get more ranges. So if anybody out there has, a private range or is a member at a club and is willing to be what we call our local boots on the ground, somebody who's a member of the club who says, "Yeah, man, we want to do this here. This is really cool," and kind of works it from the inside of a club, it makes life a lot easier if we have somebody in a club who says, "Hey, man, we want this,"
right?
Versus us walking in cold saying, "Hey, we want to talk to your board of directors," and
right. Yeah, you got to have the inside man.
Yeah, man. Local boots on the ground are it. That's how it works. So
I'm interested in Project Appleseed. In fact, we had somebody come over to the house the other day to pick up some shirts to go and attend an Appleseed event. And I was like, tell me more about Project Appleseed, right? And that was just before I reached out to you, Brian. I've got a 9-year-old kid. He's almost 10, and I've taught him some basic fundamentals of marksmanship.
Right.
But it's hard to teach your wife, and it's hard to teach your kids because at some age they start thinking, well, Dad doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, right? I'm going to get this information from YouTube or my buddy's dad or something like that. And it's just the nature of the beast. I went to Boy Scouts when I was a kid, right? I always thought that my scout leader knew more than my parents. Just was the way it was. So I've considered bringing him out to an Appleseed event and also attending myself because I'd really like to see more of the philosophy and the method in which you're instructing people to shoot. Because I'm looking at that target across from me, and Brian, can you try holding this guy up in front of this camera right here and see if we can't.
Let me give it a shot and see if we can give you a kind of a preview.
Yeah, that's something there. And guys, I'll be taking a picture of this and posting it, so it'll actually pop up on the screen right here as you're listening. I don't know why I said that because clearly you're watching and it's going to pop up on the screen. You'll see it already. But there's some small targets on there, right? So tell me about this target. What does this target mean?
All right. So let me go ahead and hold it up again so that everybody can follow along.
Okay.
So the long and short of it is the majority of our shooting at the majority of ranges that we have is done at 25 meters.
Okay.
And so we'll run this out to 25 meters, and each one of these 4 tombstone silhouettes, as we like to call them, are scaled for a different distance. So 100, 200, 300, 400 meters. And then there's this little box down there called Morgan Shingle, which is really, again, Revolutionary War history. Daniel Morgan started out as a captain, ended up as a general. Like, guy was just a crazy guy was in every battle everywhere and had huge success, and you know, he's the large reason we won the war. So anyway, to be a member of Morgan's Riflemen back in the day, his company was formed out in the mountains right after Battle Road, and they had a test. And so the test was, okay, we're going to hang this shingle up at 250 yards, and you're going to come to the line with your musket, cold bore, and you're going to have one shot. You either hit the shingle and you're in Morgan's Rifleman, or you're not.
Okay, it's that simple.
So, all right, now that doesn't sound like a big deal today because we're all used to rifled muskets or rifled guns. I mean, muskets back in those days were like 70 yards, maybe. You could be kind of accurate with it. So to do that was pretty extraordinary. And he had hundreds of guys that came up and did it. I mean, these guys were all like in their leather, you know, frazzled woodsman, you know, Jeremiah Johnson.
People,
yeah,
right?
Man, these guys, you know, if they couldn't shoot, they didn't eat. Or, you know, so these guys were a force to be reckoned with. So that's Morgan's Shingle. And if you, when you come out to an Appleseed, you have 4 opportunities. This is kind of your baseline. So the first target you shoot before we teach you anything is this target. Okay. And then the last target you shoot of the first day is this target again, and you're going to mark your improvement. Okay. And then same thing with Sunday, you get the first and last target is this. So if you clean this target, if you get all, it's basically, it's 13 shots. Imagine that, 13 colonies.
Yeah, imagine that.
So 13 shots, 3 at each silhouette, 1 at Morgan's Shingle. You get 1 shot at it. And if you make it, so if you clean the target, you get this really cool patch, which is, it's actually brand new. We just came out with it a couple of months ago. It's called the Immortal 400.
Okay.
And give you a good shot at that.
Oh, yeah.
This is probably, Appleseed has a variety of patches you can earn, but this is probably the coolest one in the country. I
mean, it looks dope. I got to admit, it looks pretty tight.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know the story of the Immortal 400 from the American Revolution, I would highly, highly encourage you to Google it. The super abbreviated, not doing it a hint of justice.
Please give us the super abbreviated version. I know a bit of it because I'm from Maryland, but please share.
So, you know, basically 400 guys from Maryland and Delaware, you know, saved the Continental Army in New York. They literally sacrificed their lives to save the army. I mean, like a suicide mission. Like there were I think maybe 1 or 2 of them actually lived. And had they not done that, George Washington would have been captured. It would have been game over. So, you know, we're from Maryland. These guys were from Maryland. Nobody even knows the story anymore. It's sad, but you know, what these guys did, we just decided, you know, hey, we gotta get that back out there. We gotta at least make the people aware of who come to our shoots that, hey, this actually happened. And so everybody wants to get that Immortal 400 patch.
And you get that by cleaning your target, right?
Cleaning the red coat, which is probably the easier of all the tasks you have to overcome at an Appleseed.
So what's the what is the, I guess, the most fundamental lesson that if you had to take all of Project Appleseed, or at least the 2-day marksmanship, rifle marksmanship training that you guys offer, what is the most fundamental piece of information that you hope everybody takes when they walk away from that?
Personally, I look at it that everybody who leaves our shoot after completing a weekend with us, I can just about guarantee you that for the rest of their life they're going to be safe gun handling and safe shooters. We hammer home safety like nobody's business, and by the time you're done at an event, it's muscle memory. Yep. Every line, every time, every rifle, everything is checked. You know, constantly during the day. When we're cold, it's guaranteed to be cold. So that's my takeaway. And, you know, I figure if nothing else we're trying to do sinks in, I know that the people who are leaving my line are going to be safe.
That's good.
And that's, if nothing else works, then that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a big one. I've had conversations with other people in the past about safety, and I always try to get everybody that comes on the show, at least when we talk about firearms, I always try to ask them, most of the time I ask them for what are their 3 fundamentals, right? But I want to talk more about Project Appleseed than Brian's 3 fundamentals.
Right.
So, but safety is always one of the ones that people stress in industry. And I have somebody coming on next week from this, I'm recording it next week. It may come out ahead or after this episode when this one releases. But he's from KidSafe. It's out in Oregon. Well, it's in the Pacific Northwest, but he works in Oregon, Washington, California, Arizona, and Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And essentially what it is, it's rifle instruction. It's firearms awareness for children, right?
Gotcha.
And they get hands-on with guns because it relieves that stigma of the big bad gun, right? They still enforce it. Yes, guns can be dangerous when they're in dangerous people's hands, or they could become accidentally dangerous, right? So, and that's part of the conversation that people don't talk about. It requires, like Brian, if you had a firearm and when you walked in my home and you sat it down, right? You were irresponsible if you did that because I've got a kid sitting up there, right?
Right.
Now, if that kid went and grabbed the firearm, it's not his fault that you left it around, right? He is fine. Well, hold on now. Let me finish my story before you start cutting your eyes at me, all right? He knows not to touch guns, right? Because he lives in a home and he understands the danger that's present with the firearm if it's operated ineffectively, right? But in a normal situation, or maybe not even normal, in a situation where a kid isn't familiar with it, if that kid walks up to it and grabs that firearm, bad things could possibly happen if he isn't familiar with the firearm or if you didn't take necessary precautions to ensure your firearm was safe when you left it laying around, right? In fact, in Oregon, the 3rd highest cause of youth deaths in the state of Oregon is firearms, right? It's just the way it is out there.
Right.
And what I like about Project Appleseed here is that you're bringing kids up through this process. As we started on the beginning of the episode, I talked about it takes a village to raise a child. It takes this community to kind of breed a society of responsible firearms owners and riflemen. That's what drew me to Project Appleseed. But the Boy Scouts used to be able to teach riflemanship, right? Some states are not really allowing that anymore. You got this company like this organization called KidSafe, where they're trying to bring kids into guns into kids' lives a little bit sooner so that you can relieve that stigma of the dangerous firearm, but also give some effective training. Like what happens if you find a gun laying around? Are you supposed to pick it up?
Right.
Who knows, right? Let's get through the training and we'll tell you.
Exactly.
But, there's stuff like that. And then now you guys are bringing kids out and you're teaching them how to shoot and they're learning about it at a much younger age. But one thing I wanted to talk about, and this always kind of gets me in hairy water when I talk to the 2A community about stuff like this is, our Second Amendment right, guarantees us the right to keep and bear arms, right? Unrestricted, according to that language in that document.
Agreed.
But don't you think that maybe, and again, you don't got to answer this. And in fact, after I ask this question, you can just kind of give me like a middle finger and storm out of here. I'll be fine with that. But do you think that in order to exercise your right to keep and bear arms, that you should have some level of training first? And let me tell you, let me preface that while you're puzzling that out in your head and getting political and trying to say the right thing.
Right.
So, like I've got 2 kids, Brian, that are both now driving, 2 older kids that are both now driving. My daughter turns 16 very soon. She has her license, or she will get her license. She has her permit. She has a car. Without practice on that car, without practice, without some licensing, without some minimum test standard, do I think that society would be safe if I just gave her the keys to a 2-ton wrecking ball and said, go 60 down the interstate? You're safe. Go ahead. Right? And that's the kind of parallel I draw when it comes to firearms. Yes, it's your birthright to be able, and it's different, right, than driving a car. That's a privilege. But we are giving somebody the capacity to do damage upon other people without any kind of training by just blanketly allowing them to exercise their Second Amendment right. It just is what it is. We do the same thing politically when we give everybody the right to vote because they're doing damage there as well. Some people are, right? Anybody could. There's potential for damage. But do you think, now that I've walked you around this subject enough, I want to get an answer out of you. Do you think that everybody, anybody who wants to exercise their Second Amendment right should have some basic level of training before they do so?
It depends on how you define exercise their right. And I got to preface all this by saying this question has nothing to do with Appleseed, so you're getting Brian here. You're not getting
Love it.
You're not getting the representative of Appleseed for this
That's
question.
fine.
Because I don't know whether Appleseed has an official policy position on this or not. But I don't necessarily agree that someone should be trained prior to purchasing a firearm. I think that is an innate right. It's a innate right to self-defense. If a woman is a victim of domestic abuse and she knows her ex is out on parole and he's coming for her, she should be able to get her hands on a gun.
So you don't think that they should have mandated training before they could buy a gun? And mandated training, right? Legally forced to attain some level of training before they could purchase a firearm.
That's a very loaded question. I can think of a lot of examples where I'd love to say, yeah, I think that's a good idea. But I think it's treading on that example that I gave.
Yeah.
And it's imperfect. Would I like everybody to have training before they have a firearm? Absolutely. But should it be mandated by the state? Man, that's a gray area right there.
Makes you feel uncomfortable just to think
it
about
does.
it.
I'm sitting here squirming a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going,
So what if, and again,
there's no good answer.
It was an okay answer because life is full of what ifs, right? If we lived in a very black and white, ones and zeros type environment, the world wouldn't be nearly as good as it is, right? We just wouldn't have any creativity or innovation or anything like that, right? We'd be a very bland society if everything was mandated and if everything was cut and dry and feelings weren't at work. But what if, I'm walking down the what if path here a little bit. So yeah, I get it. If there was a victim of some kind of domestic abuse or even somebody who felt like they may be in danger, right, without having first experienced any kind of, abuse or threat against their life, and they just said, hey, I want to go get a firearm. I do not feel safe in my housing complex, or I do not feel safe here, or whatever. Or you just happen to be birthed into a neighborhood with a very high crime rate, right? Should you have to go and spend, hundreds of dollars on training and then wait the 7 days and all this other stuff to be able to just protect yourself?
I think in a perfect world, if I were Joe gun store owner, I'd offer it as hey, come pick up your gun, but before we hand it to you, we're going to give you at least a 10 or 15 or an hour or whatever it takes just to familiarize you with that firearm.
That's right.
And I think that would be a great thing to do if I were a firearms retailer. But again, should it be mandated on them? I don't know, man. It's sticky. Sure. So
what I was getting at, what I was trying to walk back to there a little bit was, you go back in time during World War II and even after, firearms used to be taught in school, right? There's all those videos out there and pictures of all this stuff of the kids lining up on the line in PE class. It was one of their sections, right? You learned football and baseball and riflemanship, right? Marksmanship. I think that would be the solution, right? If we have, and I touched on this as coach just a bit ago, standardized testing, right? They're dumbing down the education system and they're slowly picking things away from it. And one of the things that they picked away from it a long time ago was marksmanship in school. And if, as a parent, it's our kind of right to be able to determine what is being taught to our children in school. And you could help by selecting specific electives, right? Like, well, shit, little Johnny wants to be a mechanic. I mean, he's going to take shop. Right? Or so-and-so wants to be a homemaker and she's going to take home ec or something like that. Well, maybe having marksmanship as one of those electives to kids as young as maybe 14, 15, or 13, right? In middle school, I think that would be a good idea. And then it's available to everybody and everybody has the opportunity to get some minimum level of familiarization with the firearm. Because you look on you look on any news network, doesn't matter where you lean politically, everybody's talking about, they're using even the wrong vernacular, right? The ARs, oh, it's an assault rifle. Come on, guy. You know, and that's an old horse argument that people are still just kicking around, but it's just because there's ignorance. And ignorance isn't, you know, that's not a bad word, Brian, right? Ignorance is in a dictionary for a reason. It just means basically a lack of information or understanding. There's just ignorance surrounding the world of firearms. And by Project Appleseed bringing, you know, allowing children, you know, what into their organization and creating little Appleseeds and doing the training and getting them familiarized, you're essentially laying the seeds for potential, you know, trees of additional seeds that are going to come out, right? And then you're kind of perpetuating or propagating this marksmanship awareness for generations, possibly, depending on how young you bring the children in and what their response is to it. And if they never have a negative response to a firearm in their life, right? Because that oftentimes can shake people up. But again, I don't have an answer either. I don't know if mandatory training should be a thing. I have no idea. But I think that if there was to be some kind of middle ground between the toe the line Second Amendment swingers and the guys that are very, very anti-gun, if there was some middle ground there between what's acceptable, what should be allowed, and what's not, you know, maybe it starts there. Maybe it starts with firearms awareness in school. But
yeah,
it'll ever happen because of the damn school shootings. Everyone wants guns as far away from schools as they can get. But, you know, it's just... the kid, you know, with Appleseed, a question I get quite often is I'll get an email or a phone call, and I'll have a parent or a guardian, and they'll say, hey, I want to bring my kid. My kid is 7 years old. Is that too young? Or, you know, my kid's 12 years old. Is that too young? And the answer I always give these people who are looking to bring their kids out is, well, number one, you got to be there. You know, you can't just drop the kid off and roll. And then number two is the attendee has to have the physical and mental ability to maintain safe muzzle control for the entire duration of the class. Like no messing up. You can't sweep the line. You can't turn around with your rifle. You can't do any of that stuff. And if we have anybody who shows up who we even remotely have a question, is that there may be a little shakiness there. I mean, we literally have somebody meaning a volunteer, one of our instructors in training, on that person the entire weekend until we're confident that they got it. So for anybody out there, you know, watching and listening to the podcast, you know, that's the answer to, you know, only you can answer that question as to whether your child's ready for this or not. You know, scouts really, they still exist. They're doing single shot in some places. You know, with a single shot rifle, and they let them shoot 5 rounds or something and say, here's your badge. We're kicking it up a notch. We're doing 3-position shooting, transitions, mag changes, time fire, all kinds of good stuff. And most kids are capable of doing it and being successful with it, but there is a learning curve there. Sure.
And we actually have a lot of scout troops, and I don't think it's actually in an official scout event when they come out, but we have a lot of scout troops who show up for Appleseeds year after year after year, and that's awesome. But I don't think it's, you know, a sanctioned activity or something like that. So, and we've got a lot of other youth groups that show up too. So it's worth it. You know, if you're involved with Young Marines or you know, any of the youth groups or church groups, you know, think about coming out for an event.
That's right. And we'll get links to all of the Project Appleseed stuff down in the show notes nationally. And then for you Maryland guys, there'll be some links there as well for you to find more about Brian and more about Project Appleseed. I'm interested to see what else you got there in that stack of gear. I see you brought out the one patch, the Maryland or the Immortal 400, and then the Aqt Target. What's the rest of the stuff you have here?
All right. So we'll save that one for last.
Okay.
This is, if you come out to an Appleseed, this is what we call our squares target. All right. So people look at this and they go, okay, well, whoop-de-doo, it's 5 squares on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
The beauty of this is it's gridded in 1/4-inch squares. So when we put this out at the distance we shoot it at, this is probably the only target I've used for 10 years in my personal shooting, and probably the only target I'm going to be using for the rest of my days.
It looks very familiar to me.
Because
I've seen that before somewhere.
Yeah, this is really easy to teach MOAs and sight adjustments and in a way that makes sense to people, that they can look at it and point at it and go to the target and count the squares and say, okay, how many MOA am I off at this distance? Now, what does that translate to in my sighting system?
That's
whether
right.
it's a scope or whether it's iron sights or whatever. And so that's like an invaluable lesson you get when you come to an Appleseed is, you go to the range during deer season, which is sneaking up on us, and you got the guy next to you on the line, and he's, plugging away with 30, 40 rounds trying to get his rifle sighted in, and he'll fire a shot, and he'll put a couple of clicks in, and then he'll fire another shot, and he'll be there all day, and he's wasting 2-3 boxes
And what
of ammo.
he's doing is he's not even, I've seen it so many times, and you have too. I bet you have.
Right.
Where they end up moving, where they, instead of adjusting their sight or adjusting their reticle and trying to actually lock in where they're shooting where they think they want to be shooting, they'll adjust their mind. Yeah, right?
Exactly,
they'll be like, okay, if I aim up and to the left a little bit, I know I'm going to be on target. Right? Instead of actually learning the fundamentals of riflemanship, right? Marksmanship, and learning the minutes of angle and learning the mics and all that different stuff and the clicks and everything that you can do on your sight adjustment. So that's why I love that target.
Roll out to it. We'll teach you how to zero your rifle in 2 or 3 shots.
Nice.
So it's a win-win. So I absolutely love that target. The other one is the one that everybody always asks for, and I'll give you a quick glance at it, and then he can post it up after the fact. This is our Aqt Target. This is the Army qualification target that I mentioned prior, based on the 1930s U.S. Army doctrine.
Okay.
And it's very similar to the red coat target that we showed you earlier. It's scaled to 1, 2, 3, and 400 meters. And what makes it challenging is top stage is 10 rounds standing in 2 minutes. That's probably the easiest one. But standing is it takes a little bit to master to be accurate with it. Second row and third row down are the killers. Second and third row. Second row is standing to prone transition, which is you have 55 seconds with a mag change. So you're going to start standing, drop down to standing to seated transition. So you're going to start standing, drop to seated, 2 rounds, mag change, 3 rounds, shift target for final 5 rounds. The third stage is a standing to prone transition in 65 seconds. And the final stage, which is the money row, is prone slow fire. However, they are the smallest targets, and they got 10 rounds in 2 minutes. Bottom row is worth double. So this is what earns you your Rifleman Patch. And I'll dive into that straight away. So this is everybody who shows up to an Appleseed. This is ultimately their goal.
Okay.
And I'll get into some of the specifics of why this isn't a gimme. But everybody wants to roll out of Appleseed with earning this. And I'll have guys come out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times trying to earn it. And if you stick with it, you can get it. Everybody's capable of doing this with rare exception. So, I tell the students, you could come up to me and put 10 grand on the table and say, give me one of those patches, and I'm not going to give it to you.
So you're not going to leave that one here at the house? I'm kidding.
You got to earn this, man.
Hell yeah, man, and I will.
And there's a lot of people out there who earned it, and they're like, hell yeah, man. It's a lot of work. Nationally, the success rate for an Appleseed for a student to roll in one event and walk out the door earning this is 15%.
Nice. Exclusive.
Right? So it ain't easy. It's not a gimme. Now, if you come back and do 2 or 3 shoots, usually you're knocking on the door if you don't achieve it in that time frame. And just to brag on Maryland a little bit, our average runs between 25 to 35%.
First time go?
Well, just overall.
Okay, overall.
If I've got a class of 10, it's not unusual for us to have 4, 5, 6 people make riflemen.
Nice. Got some good instructors out here.
You know, pat on my head. Got a great team in Maryland. They know what they're doing, and we've got a lot of volunteers at all of our shoots. So you're getting a lot of one-on-one. It's not like there's one guy in a line of 50 people. You know, that's how it kind of started out 12 years ago. It was safe, but you've got a lot of individualized attention, especially if you take the class in Maryland.
So you said you're kind of laughing about it back in the day. There was like one instructor in a line of like 50 people, and maybe it's not as tight anymore. But how can we stop that from happening again? Right? What is it going to take to get more volunteers out there, more instructors out there to assist with Project Appleseed? What's the call to action, if you will, Brian?
At the end of every event and during the event, we talk to the people who are attending, and we're actively soliciting volunteers to either do stuff on behind the scenes. We are all volunteer, literally, if in order to be an instructor with us or get on that path, you have to attend at least 2 classes, and you have to make riflemen if you want to be on the instructor path. Mm-hmm. And everybody, once you get on that path, you're going to have approximately 160 to 180 hours of hands-on training people how to shoot before you earn your instructor status with us. Okay. So that's basically 4 or 5 weekends or so. And if you do everything right, you learn by doing. With us standing there helping you out and, and giving you your script and whatnot, then you get your instructor status. Then if you want to be a shoot boss, it's another 80 or 100 hours or so. So where I'm going with that is, we want you. We want as many people as we can. It's got to resonate with you. If you come out and you like what you hear, step up. And we have a fair amount of people, but we could always use more help. And then the other thing I like to kind of not to jab the NRA. They got enough problems these days. I'm also a CMP instructor. I'm also an NRA instructor. When I went and got my NRA instructor, I sat in the class for 8 hours and took a test, and there you go, you're an instructor. You roll into an Appleseed. You wanna join the crew. It's going to take you 160 to 180 hours before you're going to earn that instructor title. So when I was highlighting that we're serious about safety and doing everything exactly the same, you go to McDonald's in Maryland or California, you get the same experience. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Appleseed. You take it anywhere, you get the same experience. So it takes that training to get it so that's a standard nationwide. So I
really do appreciate the fact that it is non-for-profit. Right, or it's a non-profit organization. I really do appreciate the fact because, with the record gun sales that we've seen over the past few years, and then with ammo costs the way they are and all that stuff, I mean, you see a lot of people that are just kind of fly-by-night gun trainers, instructors. They want to pop in, they want to try to sell you your wear and carry permit or your HQL, just make a buck off of you. And what are you really doing? I mean, if your focus is to create a safer nation and instruct people on the safe usage of a firearm, right? I understand there's overhead. I understand there's a cost to doing business, right? But raping people and just trying to make a quick buck off of somebody who's tired of being a victim or wants to practice self-defense, right, is kind of a dirty thing, right? It's almost criminal in my opinion. And the way that you guys are doing this, I mean, you're not taking a paycheck home from this. You're taking time out of your day to get out here and teach people and teach a nation of Appleseeds, right? And help people qualify for that Rifleman badge right there. I'm going to get me one of them. You just wait. And I'll probably try to get that Maryland 400 badge too. Why not? And then, but I really appreciate what you guys are doing, Brian. I'm a big fan of it. Again, I'll put all this down in the show notes, but some people may be driving while they're listening to this. Mm-hmm. Where can they find, what's your guys' website? Where can they find more about Project Appleseed?
So it's appleseedinfo.org. Prices for standard adults are $75 for a weekend. which is, man, in the training industry, that's nothing.
Yep.
And that most of that money goes to pay for insurance and T-shirts. And kids are, I believe, 30 at the moment. Law enforcement, military, reserves, guard, $30. If you want to dress up in period costume from the Revolutionary War and show up, $30. Politicians are $30. We want as many politicians on the line as we possibly can.
Yep.
So yeah. For the quality and the instruction you're going to get, it's basically a giveaway. I mean, it's the best value in the industry by far, and we're doing it because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing
what kind of rifles are people? Do they bring their own rifles, or do you have loaners on site, or how's it work with that?
We typically people bring their own rifles. We have some ranges that are rimfire only due to the range restrictions. Mm-hmm. We have some ranges where you can shoot center fire. So if you're going to come to a Maryland event, check first, look at that really carefully. If you want to bring your AR and you sign up for the wrong class, you're going to end up with a 22. Now, we do have loaner rifles available, and if you sign up and you email me and say, hey, I'm coming to XYZ class, do you have a loaner available? We can normally take care of that for you. We typically ask you to bring ammo if you can, and that would be 22 long rifle. I try and remove any excuse that anybody could possibly have for not coming to an event. If you want to roll in with just you and nothing, I'll get you on the line with everything you need, and you'll have a blast.
That's so cool.
I don't encourage that, but I have had people do that in the past. So
Sure.
Yeah, man.
Brian, it's been a blast, man. We are coming up on. We could probably keep going, but like I mentioned before, I got another guy coming in the studio, and I don't know if you could smell it, but Raylene's making something tasty upstairs. So
yeah.
I might actually get you to stay around for dinner. But man, it's been a blast, and I will have, like I said, guys, jump down in the show notes, all the links to find Brian, to find Project Appleseed, and to find more about Project Appleseed Maryland are going to be there. Support your local, instructors, guys. Support your local range. Find out how to get engaged. Is there an opportunity for them to donate on the website or anything like that? Yeah, exactly.
Go to the website, poke around, check us out. We're normal folks. We're not scary.
Yeah, if you can't make it out to an event, which we encourage you to make it out to an event. If you can't make it out to an event, as he mentioned, right, boots cost money. Put some money out there. Put your money where your mouth is, right? If you want to protect these rights, if you want to protect our independence, if you want to build up a nation of Appleseeds, help out where you can, right? And so all of that stuff will be down there, Brian. But with that, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing this message, and I'll see you out on the range, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, with that, we're out.
Cool.